Welcome to Green Building Matters, the original and most popular podcast focused on the green building movement. Your host is Charlie Cicchetti, one of the most credentialed experts in the green building industry and one of the few to be honored as a lead fellow. Each week, Charlie welcomes a green building professional from around the globe to share their war stories, career advice, and unique insight into how sustainability is shaping the built environment. So settle in, grab a fresh cup of coffee, and get ready to find out why green building matters.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. I'm your host, Charlie Cicchetti. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia, but today we have a longtime education partner with GBES. That's our education company. But Brett Little's with us. He's with the GreenHome Institute up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Brett, how you doing today?
Hey, Charlie, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Well, I know we've been in touch for many years. I mean, you've got quite a bit of on the home side, just the lead for homes, early adopter of that. But I can't wait to learn a little bit more of what you and the Institute are doing. But I've got to kind of take us back. So where'd you grow up and go to school?
Yeah, definitely. I am from Muskegon, Michigan. So for those of you who don't know Muskegon, for those of you who might know Grand Rapids, we are on the lakeshore, 40 minutes from Grand Rapids. So if you take your hand out, right, and you got the thumb on the right side and the pinky on the left side, I know you can't see me right now, and just kind of point to that, middle lower spot. That's where I'm at from. That's where I grew up in Michigan and have stayed around West Michigan as well. So
fantastic, man. And did you kind of go on to school in the area? Tell us a little bit of that early kind of, growing up there, school and early career.
Yeah. I went to school there, switched into, we have a small business college called Baker College. So, started going for my associate's degree in business there, because that's what you do. You go for your associate's degree in business when you don't know what you want to do. I was in a band, thought that might go somewhere. I worked at Starbucks for a very long time and thought, maybe I was going to rise up in that company for a while. So yeah, that's a little bit of my education and work background there.
Oh, that's so. Well, a couple things there. So one, the band. So do you still play an instrument? What do you do?
I played bass, which isn't the funnest thing, and I can play some guitar, but it's just sort of a relaxing
steady
thing.
And stoic. Yeah, I love it, man. And then you knew you wanted to go on for the bachelor's, and as I understand it, still business, but sustainable business. So tell us, how'd you know you wanted to maybe get into that?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, when I was working at Starbucks, I saw the organic milk. I didn't even know what organic was. I saw soy-based milk, and it had wind turbines on the back. It said, "This is powered by wind turbines." I saw fair trade stickers and organic coffee, and I was just like, "What does this mean? Who cares?" Right? And so I went on Wikipedia, which had just come out, and you just start going down the rabbit hole reading that stuff. And then, you're reading about climate change, which I'll be honest with you, I had never heard of. I was 21 years old. I had never heard the term. And if I did, it washed right over me. And so, didn't grow up, talk about it in the family. Nobody told me about it. Didn't talk about it. And so, and then also partially too, my faith in a church I was transitioning to did a series on God is Green. And you're like, right when I started, it was like, whoa. So anyway, I, went back to my college as I was wrapping up my degree. And I said, how can I keep learning about business, but also include the environment? Or what do you have for me? And they just looked at me like I was a complete crazy person. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I got lucky and, ran into some friends who went to the Aquinas College program in Grand Rapids. And they were one of the first in the nation to launch a sustainable business degree, bachelor's. There had been masters, but bachelor's. And so I was like, I don't know what all that means or what Aquinas is, but that's what I know I have to do. And so, and I had my father telling me, I got to get a bachelor's. You have to do it. You can't just give up. So it was like, now I feel like I have some meaning and some purpose to go towards. So,
wow, that's a rare degree. And now there's more, but this is, 10, 12 years later. So it's pretty cool. Right. You have that opportunity. And because that is one of my questions, sustainability. So you told us about that sustainable business. Now, what about buildings and homes? Like, when did that come into the picture?
Yeah. So when I, started going to school, somebody who also went through that degree had volunteered at the organization I work at now under our former name, the Alliance for Environmental Sustainability, which is just an absolute mouthful. And she's like, look, go volunteer there. Like, just show up, knock on their door and tell them that you want to just volunteer. And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. I should get out there. And so I did. I was going to school. I showed up here. I walked in the door. I said, I don't know what you do. Your name sounds really cool. Tell me what to do. I'll do it for free. Right. And we don't have that luxury anymore, unfortunately, or students don't. But I was lucky to have that and sort of learn about green building, because just like climate change, I had no idea on what construction was, remodeling. You wouldn't want me to get involved in that. I didn't grow up in that. Didn't really work with my hands too often. So I kind of learned about it more from the, educational and consulting side. And one cool thing too is I started volunteering on Habitat for Humanity projects who were committed to LEED certification in Kent County, Michigan. And so that I got to see hands-on while I was volunteering what made a home green versus not. And honestly, I learned about what a green home was before I learned about what a not green home was, right? So it was just normal for me.
Well, that was your new normal.
Right.
No, thanks for connecting those dots. Tell all of our listeners here, Brett, about the GreenHome Institute, where you've been for 13 and a half years now.
Yeah. So like I said, showed up as a volunteer there, and then they let me fail upwards and employed me. And, our mission, we're a nonprofit. We've existed for 20 years. So people ask me, did I start that? No, I was in high school when it started. I didn't know anything about this stuff, but for the other half of its life, I've been there. And our mission is to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the places we live. So we do that through education, training, awareness on green building practices for new and existing homes. And then ultimately, we help certify the homes in multifamily buildings, either to LEED standards or Enterprise Green or our own internal GreenStar program.
And I'm here in Atlanta. We've got South Face as Earthcraft. Obviously, we've got LEED for Homes, and it sounds like you work in a lot of programs, but you also have your own. So, in your region, Brett, tell us a little bit about some of the homes. Is it single family? Is it multifamily as well? And who do you see applying these programs?
Yeah, I know. I'm glad you brought up South Face. I mean, if they're on my sort of top 5 or top 3. If someone's like, "Quick, tell me who you're about, who you're similar to." Oh, South Face is. South Face is like, I guess I could say we're like a very small version of them, right? They're much larger than we are. And so same kind of deal, we get involved in, single family, multifamily housing, consulting and review, whether it be through LEED or other green building programs. We help on low-income housing tax credits. So if you aren't aware of this, in order to entice developers to build low-income housing, so that's for people in the lower area median income bracket who can't get into, traditional housing, they have tax credits for them. And part of that tax credit is meeting green standards. And I'm very thankful to be in the state of Michigan, who continues to receive the highest rating of their green program for their low-income housing tax credit. Out of all the 50 states, they have the most sustainable one, I hear. So we're always excited to help. And we've got grant funding too in West Michigan to move the needle on low income and supportive housing. So homeless, veteran, youth homeless, maybe climate refugee, workforce housing, ensuring that people who don't have the means to access a green home is very important to us, because we think everybody deserves a green home. So,
man, I can tell that's that passion and that purpose there. It sounds like, you guys know what you're showing up to work for every day. That's really cool. Just real quick, tell us about, in your region, green homes, what's the hardest thing to do in the area? Is it the energy efficiency because you got more heating months than cooling months? Yeah. Is it finding certain materials? Yeah. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, you look around the country, right? And I hate to chuck middle America under the bus here, but this is the most difficult place to do anything like this, right? Whatever that means. But, the heartland, it's just hard. Here in West Michigan, in the Midwest, we're the second hardest place to convince people to do these things, especially if you're outside of the more metro areas. It's very difficult. People want immediate return on investment for anything that they're going to do. And that's what it's all about, right? We want to build to whatever bare minimum standard we have to do. And if we don't get a payback on something else from an energy efficiency standpoint within 3 years, usually, we just can't do it, even if it saves carbon emissions or benefits us long term. So that's always been our hardest sell here. And thankfully, we've got a good code, one of the best codes in the country, I think, in the state of Michigan. So we're starting from a higher point. But, that's just energy efficiency. So green incorporates the 5 pillars of green: energy, health, materials, water, and place. And so the other aspects of green, the ventilation side, the water conservation side, that's difficult. I mean, water conservation, we've got the Great Lakes here. So people look at that and go, well, we have all the water in the world, so might as well just waste as much of it as we can, right? And so trying to talk to people about low flow toilets and shower heads, we kind of just get laughed at because it's like, what's the point? So, that's difficult as well. And then also, looking at renewables, people in Michigan just assume that it's too cold here, which actually cold weather helps solar power generation, believe it or not. So those are some education that we have to sort of unwind in our region. And, I could go on complaining about the challenges, but for me, it's fun to, I could move to California and do this all day and it'd be easy, right? I mean, but here in West Michigan, I kind of like the challenge. So,
well, and it's your roots are there. You're like, hey, we're going to figure it out. We're doing it. And you are doing it. So, okay. So career-wise here, influences and mentors. I think it's so cool. You said that time at Starbucks introduced you to these sustainability labels. Like, that's really pretty amazing. Yeah. Did you have any other mentors or someone you looked up to along the way?
Yeah. And I would say at Starbucks, it was like the anti-mentor, right? It was like, I started putting a sustainability plan and they were like, nope, just go sell coffee. Don't worry about this. So I was like, okay, now I know I need to move on, right? I mean, and that's fair. They want you to focus where they want you to focus. And now they're doing a lot of great work in that field. So it's almost like the anti, right? It was convinced me to go. But yeah, my teacher at Aquinas College, Dr. Tuith, very inspirational on the sort of head in the clouds sustainability to keep remembering what the ultimate goal is, which was always helpful. Difficult for some people because it's like, what he's talking about is not going to happen for 50, 60 years, but where do we need to be going? And that's what always inspired me to think further on and not let the immediate barriers. And then our board chair and president at GHI, who hired me and mentored me and let me make so many mistakes. He should have fired me and he didn't. I don't know why. But he, being someone who didn't necessarily care about climate change or even think it was real, actually, in my opinion, did more to start the ball rolling to stop it by actually engaging with people where they're at and trying to figure out how do we solve the problem and increase energy efficiency in green building. So, Mike Holcomb, has always been like, a mentor to me. Even we may not have agreed on a lot of things. We agreed on sort of the approach, and I, appreciated his knowledge and education, and quite frankly, his ability to let me, discover and fail. So
it's always good to give those shout outs to those that have that influence. So thanks, and thanks for doing that. If you look back, what are some things you're really proud of?
Yeah, looking way back now, especially for me, I received a Home Energy Magazine 30 Under 30 award, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I know that they've been transitioned into another program now. I think it's BPA, but that was pretty cool. And then also when I bought my first home, we cut the energy efficiency of it in half, the energy use. We cut the water by 30%. We got it green certified. It was an old 1926 home in Grand Rapids. So we bought it and we I GC'd the project and we certified. I mean, I couldn't live in a house and promote this if I didn't do it myself and be a hypocrite. And then also I'm super excited because my second home that I'm in now, we did the same thing. We're GreenStar Platinum certified, Pearl Platinum certified. I GC'd the whole project. We hit 1 year of full electrification as of last week. And so I'm super proud of just, having some time and effort to be able to do this and hopefully do it in a way that can be replicatable, I hope, and be able to tell that story, which I'm behind on telling that story, but I need to get some stuff together for it.
Hey, we'll do some continuing ed with you. I can bring my drone. We'll do some nice footage. It'd be great, man.
Right. Yeah. Drones. Yeah. And then, as far as our company goes, when I started on formally as the main full-time there, we were actually in the red. We had run out of money. we was just one employee, and now we've doubled in size, 1 to 2, not huge, but still. And, we're doing really well financially and making a lot of impact. So it's just, I'm excited that I was able to help make that happen with our long group of board of directors who were there with us, and my former mentor and chair, and then also kickstart our webinar series, which has been a huge success. And I can't believe it's been 7 years since we've been doing it.
Those are some great accomplishments. Really cool in the house too, how you just, we cut it in half, cut down that. That's really good stuff. So let's talk about today. What kind of stuff you're working on, Brett? What's keeping you busy when you show up to work today?
Yeah. So, like I said, I still get super excited about our weekly Wednesday webinar series where we go live and talk to people all over the planet, really. I mean, I had someone calling in from Europe the other day, and, we just talk about green building ideas, mostly related to residential. And quite frankly, I'm a little bit selfish here because they're usually something that I want to learn. So I take an hour out of my day for work to learn something new. But we come to find out there's a lot of other people who actually want to learn about this too. And they show up, and we get a lot of amazing conversation and great dialogue, and, just help people advance. So, we're continuing to do that almost every Wednesday throughout the year, and it's worth CEUs as well. And we got a lot of great stuff lined up for the rest of this year and next year. And then kind of taking it down from the big to the small, we're super excited to be doing a Biggest Loser Home Energy Challenge in the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. So basically the crux of it is you look at your energy use in 2021, you compare it to 2022, and the person who loses the most or cuts their usage the most is going to get a big $500 check in Ann Arbor. And we're managing that program. We're doing education, training on it, energy audits. And then also there's going to be other prizes, second, third place. And we've done this before in Holland, Michigan. So it's really exciting to be working with another city to do it again. And this time we're bringing indoor air quality and actually trying to challenge people to evaluate their air quality at the beginning and then evaluate it at the end and see who's, improved there too. Because a lot of times we all talk about energy efficiency, but we quickly forget that, we may be poisoning ourselves in our homes as we make our homes more efficient. So we don't want to leave that out of the conversation. And I was really glad that for the leadership of the city of Ann Arbor to recognize that and say, yeah, we should have that as part of the conversation. So
I can tell you really enjoying the work and you love to connect the experts to your region, your audience, and help teach too. So that's really good stuff. All right, so let's look to the future. What do you think's next? What's coming at us in this green building, in your case, green home movement?
Yeah, and I personally think it's real-time information right on the spot when you need it. And so part of that goes to load shifting, right? So load or peak load shifting. I've heard the term load shimmying. I need to learn about that a little bit more. But the idea is that we need to have this bigger conversation about when we're using energy in our homes and figuring out ways to make sure that it matches when renewables are being produced in our region. And so that's a conversation that's going to happen at a national level, state, local, and right in someone's home, right? Like that's a decision you make. Like I make a decision to set my dishwasher to run at 11 o'clock at night when there's more wind and nuclear on the grid. And we don't want to get in the nuclear debate, but it's carbon free right now. And so, and so there's less coal, less natural gas, right? And so having those conversations, when are we running that energy? I think that real-time data is going to be very important where we move beyond net zero and get into something that's pretty popular just coming out now, which is called 24/7 zero carbon. And how do we work with people in their homes to not be frustrated by this, but actually engage and get excited about it? Because right now, if you tell me not to run my dryer at 2 o'clock because that's my highest cost, I'm going to be very mad. But, I don't. I mean, I like it, but the average person's like, don't tell me what to do. So, that's the next conversation. And how do we make it work? And then back to what I said with air quality, right? We need real-time air quality data. I wish I could show you a picture right now, but I am sitting at a score. This never happens. I'm sitting at a score of 100% air quality in my house right now. And usually I'm in like the 80s or 90s. And that's measuring VOCs, CO2, humidity, PM 2.5, which is basically wildfire smoke, nasty stuff. And so we need to have real-time air quality in our homes, telling us, communicating with us, what's going on? Are we being healthy? Especially as we work from home more. And how does that tie into that load shifting and talking with our ventilation systems? And then lastly, I think water quality. I mean, Michigan is the canary in the coal mine here, right? We got Flint with lead. We've got Benton Harbor with lead. We've got PFAS all over here. And we're not the only ones. We're just the first to have noticed it. And so I think, we talk about air quality quite a bit, which is good. But I think the next phase of green building is going to be water quality and ensuring that everybody is, keeping healthy when they take a drink out of the tap. Oh, you're on mute, Charlie.
Amateur move. Real-time data that ties into our sustainability, better decisions, even the home end. I love it. And you're right. Maybe in your area, there's some things came to light in the press, but there's a lot more of these out there, even in the U.S. I think sometimes we take for granted being in the U.S. that, we've got the best water and the best air and the best this. Is still got some stuff to work on. So that was really good, Brett. Thank you. So let's talk more about you. Some rapid fire questions here. What would you say is your specialty or gift?
Yeah, I think it's really the ability to connect either people together who might seem like, hey, I heard you say this and you said this, and I think you two need to be talking about this, and it's going to work really well. And then also, ideas in the same sense, tying in two ideas and seeing a bigger picture. I've always appreciated that gift.
That does sound like a good gift to have. So do you have any good habits, any routines or rituals?
I think the routine and ritual is to, throw out the routine and ritual, especially in today's world where the next day something completely crazy has happened, right? And you didn't even expect it. And instead have the routine and ritual of being flexible and adaptable and being able to realize that what you thought today is now immediately not the case anymore. And you have to be able to quickly adapt to it. So
that's fair to stay disciplined, to stay flexible, right? It's especially in this industry, right? It's adaptable.
Well, in the industry, yeah.
But it sounds like in your personal life too, you're a little more just, all right, every day's gonna be a little different. So let's talk about the bucket list. I'm a fan of the bucket list. Brett, what are one or two things maybe on your bucket list?
Yeah, it seems pretty simple, but, I don't travel too much, especially now, really never. So I'm excited to someday visit maybe like a 2-week stay in the Pacific Northwest, kind of check that whole area out and kind of take it in, have some time out there. Sounds pretty exciting to me. And I'd also like to, maybe create like a board game, whether it's sold or just for my own internal purposes with my kid. I think that's something that would be fun.
Oh, that'd be a blast, man. Pacific Northwest and the board game. Actually, my middle brother, he really likes creating games. I tell him he should put them on Kickstarter or something, but you can get a blank, maybe a blank board for a board game and color it in. Yeah, and make it.
Okay.
So you got to do it, man.
It makes sense. Yeah, I didn't, but yeah, thanks for the thought.
Good. So let's keep going here. How about books? Is there a book you'd recommend?
I need to do a better job at reading, but I got really excited after I watched the new Dune. I had loved the old Dune. And then I started reading about what it was about and sort of the stuff around it. And I'm like, I really need to read this series. So my guess is I'll start reading it and then we'll recommend it based on what I heard. So
yeah, so you got to read it, and then I guess the new movie's out and stuff. So yeah. That'll be fun, man. So we'll link to that book. And I love it because it's not just about reference material and buildings. We got to have some fun. We got some fiction in there too. So just a couple more things here. Is there any advice you'd give someone? Excuse me. Is there anything you wish you'd have known earlier in your career?
Yeah, I think tracking every sort of potential data point that's measurable is very important. And it's one thing that as our organization went further and further along, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had known all of these things before, that I could make a meaningful statement like, yep, like 50% of the homes we get involved in use this much energy or this much water or whatever it might be. It could even be an internal thing, like when I'm, running a business, there's all sorts of things you can look at financially or based on diversity, equity, and inclusion now too. So I wish someone would have instilled in me the idea to really capture as much information as you can so you can make better informed decisions rather than just make assumptions. And unfortunately, I just kind of learned that the hard way as I go. So
it's good, man. I think, you're moving up your career quickly here and taking some strides, and it's any little pro tip I think helps our listeners too. So our last question for today, I really enjoyed our conversation, Brett, is let's say someone's listening to this podcast and hopefully in the future going to come check out your webinar series, and we'll link to that in the podcast show notes. Let's say someone's listening and they're getting encouraged. They want to jump into this green building or green home movement. What words of encouragement do you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great time. We need all the help we can get here in this sector, and especially in the construction and trades sector. We really need a lot of help there. There's a lot of opportunity to stand out above the people who are currently in this sector and, take us to the next level. And so I hope you'll consider getting involved. Take a look at your own house, what's going on in it, and use it as a starting place to learn about what can be done. But I think as we start to transition more to our homes and working from home, this is going to become even more important that we deal with sustainability in our housing.
Perfect, man. Well, you're the guy, you're the expert up there doing great things in your region. I appreciate our education kind of relationship between your institute and our online education company. So to everybody, connect with Brett Little on LinkedIn. We'll put a link in the podcast show notes. Brett, keep up the great work, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlie.
I just want to say thank you to our loyal listeners. We actually are celebrating over 1 year here on the Green Building Matters podcast. Me and the entire team were stoked and just so glad you continue to listen every Wednesday morning to a new interview with a green building professional here in this industry, or just some pro tips that we want to make sure that you are getting straight from us, straight to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Green Building Matters podcast. At GBES.com, our mission is to advance the green building movement through best-in-class education and encouragement. Remember, you can go to gbes.com/podcast for any notes and links that we mentioned in today's episode. And you can actually see the other episodes that have already been recorded with our amazing guests. Please tell your friends about this podcast. Tell your colleagues. And if you really enjoyed it, leave a positive review on iTunes. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on next week's episode.